Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. This time I'm not in front of the camera, or nor is there any camera at all. I'm actually using some screen capture software, in order to capture my browser window, because today I'm going to be taking the political compass test. I said I would do this if or rather when I decide to do a live stream, but really I wanted to do something that is, this week I wanted to do something that is both low effort and that also ties into what I did and also what I've done on my main channel. And this test fulfills both these requirements. Note, I do not think particularly highly of this test. It's fine. It's fine for what it is, but when it comes to actually assessing your political opinions, I think eight values is better, and I think Politiscales is best. I might do that either in a live stream or in a future video, depending on whether or not you want to see that. My own political views might not be surprising to anyone who follows me on Twitter or Tumblr, the links to which will be in the description. But I will still go through this test and explain myself as well as I can. I'm pretty sure there are people who have gamified this test to the point where they can literally get any result on this compass, but I'm not one of them. I'm just going to answer as truthfully as I can. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Takes a while to load. Okay, preamble. I don't really care. So, let's start. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Strongly agree. Some people will say there is no difference between the interests of transnational corporations and humanity, to which I disagree, but we'll get to that when we'll get to that, assuming there is a statement from which I can start a discussion. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. Strongly disagree. I have my own idea of what is right and wrong, and whether or not my country or the people who lead my country at that point agree with that is irrelevant. No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I I will say I agree somewhat, because I don't think it's foolish to be proud of things that have had an influence upon you. You could be proud of the community you're a part of, or the school you managed to visit, or not. So you can be proud of, like I said, the parts of your upbringing, as long as you're aware of the influence these parts have had on you. Whether or not your country of birth really counts as a community, I would say no, because it's too large. But still, I will say it has an influence on the community, which is why I don't strongly agree, just agree. That being said, let's go on. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. No. My race is somewhat at an advantage because of historical and socioeconomic conditions, but we're not really superior in any way. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Just a slight disagree, because it depends. Because I have um, a lot of common enemies with people who I would also call enemies, at least in terms of politics. Like, I would give an example, but really that would take too long. Anyway, let's move on. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Um, I'll just say just disagree rather than strongly disagree, because reasons. There is now a warring fusion of information and entertainment. This is not really a politics question, so I don't know what to say about this. As for the question itself, well, I have to say a slight agree. I actually grew up on documentaries, so a lot of my information sources were also my entertainment source is. But overall, this trend does lead to critical assessment of certain information being erased. So for that reason, I'm gonna say agree. Next page. Now the economy. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. Strongly agree. I have more in common with the working peoples of Georgia than with Bill Gates. I would never say that a box of pizza rolls is $22, for instance. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Strongly disagree. Or well, let's see. Is according to Marx's doctrine, unemployment only exists because people only exists so that if an employee complains, they can just get kicked out. To keep people desperate enough to where they would want to work in conditions that even they recognize as miserable. And I can't really think of any counter to that. Whereas inflation, in economics, inflation is just kind of a neutral thing. It either is or isn't. You know, it's not much of a big deal. And also, inflation simply means that the worth of money changes. Well, the worth of money changes even if we say it does or doesn't. Like, it's not really that big a deal. So it's more important to keep unemployment down than inflation. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. True, very much. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. I agree. Not sure strongly, but I lean more towards strongly than just agree. So I'll go with that. The freer the market, the freer the people. Nope. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. I've been critical of markets here, but this is where I'll defend them, because if you don't have drinking water as a bottled, branded product, then you have to live somewhere within an hour of where you can actually find fresh drinking water, and that really limits what you can do as a society. So, in order to quote Mao Zedong's successor, in order to make this country rich, some people need to become rich first. Overall, though, it is possible to have a monopoly on drinking water, which I'm not particularly proud of or happy with. So, which is why I won't go full-on disagree, but I will say I'm actually torn. Here. Overall, however, I'll say agree, because there are people who are in a worse condition than me, and for whom it is said that they don't have drinking water. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Strongly agree. I don't know about you, but I've never really had any strong connection to land. The only thing what I really cared about was what I could do. So if I have any kind of land or any kind of possession that would allow me to do that, it wouldn't matter to me if I bought it, or if I was handed it, or if I just rented. It's just there. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Well, I'm against stock exchange on principle, so I strongly agree. By the way, sorry if I stutter a bit. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Funnily enough, the biggest fortunes on the planet, or rather the biggest national fortunes on the planet, have been made precisely through protectionism. So, I have to say, I agree. I agree to an extent. Because you have to ask yourself who is getting protected. And unless we get a full or more accurate description of who would fall under protectionism, under that definition of who needs to be protected, I can't really say strongly. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. To some extent, I actually agree to this, but to me, the customers of to me the customers of a company as well as the general population also counts under its shareholders. If by shareholders we simply mean people who bought stocks or shares within the company, then my answer goes to strongly disagree. And given how simplistic this test tends to be, I think that is the meaning we are supposed to we're supposed to read into this. The rich are too highly taxed. Nope. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Nope. Because those with the ability to pay aren't the ones who are the most sick. And in medical services, triage means that you should give priority attention to people who have the most serious conditions, regardless of whether or not they are rich. Moving on, governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Oh yeah, I would criminalize false advertising. Just between you and me. Genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Yep, I agree to that. Next page. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Bullshit. Let women do whatever they want with their body. All authority should be questioned. Yep. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's bullshit. I believe in rehabilitative justice rather than just retribution. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Theaters and museums are part of the common good, so having taxpayers prop them up is actually, I think, the best way to encourage them. Whether or not survival on commercial basis is from that perspective completely irrelevant. So I don't know. I'm still gonna say disagree because I think giving them a supplemental income, as in a commercial basis, as in having customers pay, would help somewhat. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Soft agree. I was pretty much a nerd. I don't think I've ever skipped class, like ever. But still, I was there because I wanted to be there, because I recognize that there is a merit to that. Whether or not other people can find merit in other things, that is something else. But if they skip school because they are doing something that doesn't really support their future, then I think is a problem. So this is why I'm just agreeing instead of strongly agreeing. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Bullshit. We need diversity. We need. Okay, this is a loaded statement. We need diversity. We actually need people who hold different opinions to our own. And sometimes these different opinions can come from people with different social backgrounds. Whether or not these backgrounds come from their country of birth or from their material status. Diversity is good because diversity ignites ideas, and new ideas are needed to improve what is already in place, and to make people's lives better, and get to as the U.S. Constitutional Declaration of Independence says it, a more perfect union. So this is why we should have people of different kinds congregate, which is why I strongly disagree. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. If you spank your children, you only teach them that they should listen to the angry and the violent. So no, strongly disagree. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Strongly agree. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. I've actually gone increasingly towards agreeing for this as I grew older, because, well, Well, I do agree that there are some restrictions that are necessary for the consumption of marijuana. I don't think personal use would go under the go under the restrictions that would make possessing marijuana a criminal offense. Even then, I don't think really that any kind of drug possession should be a criminal offense. But that goes into a separate discussion. I might go into it if you if you express interest towards that. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. The prime function of schooling is to equip future generations to think. Whether or not they can find jobs is secondary. It's more a question of the market, of the job market, to be able to give them in order to give them jobs they can use, rather than the school to teach them think in certain ways so that they get jobs. So overall, I'm gonna say I won't say strongly disagree, because some people are just stupid and require jobs to just get knocked into place and give them something to do with their lives. But I will still say that I disagree. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. I would say strongly disagree, because, well, what goes under serious inheritable disabilities? That is a very loaded statement, and unless you clarify that, I cannot agree with that. And even assuming that were the case, you still have a whole bunch of means that we can use to counteract most of the disadvantages uh, that would come from having any sort of disability. And if we don't, we should, because that's what it means to make people's lives better. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Germany in the 30s knew discipline, and how well did that serve them? Yeah, I know I'm. Yeah, I know I'm going to the what is it called? Godwin's law? Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to Godwin's law already, but it is still a relevant topic. So for this reason, I strongly agree. There are no civilized and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. Uh, Agree, because there are still some people who have whose cultural backgrounds do bring them to do things that we consider savage, such as FGM, or maybe uncircumcision, those kinds of things. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Yeah, no. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Bullshit. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Nope. First generation immigrants are more likely to be fully integrated citizens than I would say people who are born citizens, because they actually chose to become citizens there. They identify with the ideals of the country they become a part of. So I would say that they are very much likely to be fully integrated within their new country. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. And here we reach that point I was talking about. Because this statement is actually correct, but not in the way the people who made this test think it is. Because what is good for the most successful corporations, and actually for all corporations, is for people to have a lot of spare money and a lot of spare time. Because if they have those, it means they can afford to go out and indulge their hobbies and have an excellent quality of life, which is what we all want. Henry Ford knew that, which is why he paid his employees a lot for the time, and also had them working in just 8 hours a day, which for the time was very low. And he was ultimately quite successful. However, most corporations today don't really think in terms of in terms of, oh, let's make sure other people can afford to buy our stuff, because as far as they see it, that is not their duty. That is the duty of whoever employs whoever is buying from them. And so if they could get away with it, they would they would have no problem in uh, in uh, in raising the amount of hours worked and diminishing the salary. They would lose some employees, at least initially, but over time they would find that they would still have profits if everyone else keeps their employees under the same salary and with the same working times. And as soon as the other companies mention that this company that is paying its people less and is having them work more is getting more money, they will all start to do it. In which case, people have less money to spend and less money and less time to spend on their hobbies, which overall decreases their quality of life, makes them more likely to get sick, etc. And then the products these companies create don't sell; they go to waste, and therefore these companies lose money. Unless they can sell them to markets that are completely detached from their work pool, in which case you can detach what is good for all of us from what is good for the most successful corporations. So therefore, you can uncouple the welfare of companies from the welfare of people altogether. So in an ideal world, this statement would be true, but in our world, it is completely wrong. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I'm kind of iffy on that because I've seen a lot of corporations that do receive public funding being not independent but partisan, or becoming partisan because of who is funding them. But overall, if you have a stable set of standards for what these broadcasting institutions can and should put in place, then I think you might be somewhat well off. So overall, I'm gonna lightly disagree. Next page. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I'll say yes. And it's not just from the state. There are also various private entities that use the framing the state has provided in order to gain their own in order to gain our information. Okay, furthermore, a significant advantage of one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Has any one of the people who ever made this test even been in a party before? Just because there is one party doesn't mean one opinion. There are tons of disagreements even within a single party, so yeah, wrong. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Bullshit. If you limit people's privacy, you also limit people's safety. That's just a fact. Sorry. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. It'll be a slight disagree for me because aside from most serious crimes, I also this is because don't want to say aside from serious crimes. I want to say for the most serious crimes and people who prove themselves incapable of being redeemed. Who would determine whether or not they are redeemed? Well, a group of psychologists, psychiatrists, and other specialists from within that field that can make these assessments. But for now, all I can say is that I disagree. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Strongly disagree. You can have rules and guidelines that pretty much all people agree upon to an extent. So, and you don't necessarily need this level of stratification between obey and command. Also, if the people above don't don't also obey these rules, then there is something wrong with the society. It cannot call itself civilized. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Do you want me to invoke Godwin's law again? That being said, in criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Bullshit. It's a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. I kind of disagree. There are a certain set of criminals that might be beyond rehabilitation, but I can't say that. But I don't know how many of these there are, and I am willing to at least try with everyone, which is why I'm not going to say strongly disagree, just disagree. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly disagree or just disagree? I want to say just disagree because I think the manufacturer is also pretty important. By manufacturer, I mean people who actually work at the assembly line, not their boss. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Well, everyone should be homemakers. Everyone should be capable of taking care of the place they live in. But otherwise, saying that a certain category of people can only or should only do a specific task, yeah, that goes against civil liberties. So strongly disagree. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Yep, that is a fact. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Slight disagree. I will say making peace is not necessarily making peace, but finding your place within the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. That doesn't really mean settling into it or agreeing with it. It just means this is how other people stand, and it may or may not match up with where I stand. Okay, moving along. Astrology accurately explains many things. Nope. You cannot be moral without being religious. Allow me to quote Alphonse Donation François, better known as the Marquis de Sade. As I have thought pretty much everything one could think within my particular field, but I have not done not even a fraction. But I haven't done even a fraction of them, because I am neither a criminal nor an outlaw. So you can be moral without being religious. Strongly disagree. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly disagree. Charity is better at helping the genuinely disadvantaged while also keeping them genuinely disadvantaged. Whereas social security helps them become somewhat more than what they start out as. Some people are naturally unlucky. Sad but true. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Bullshit. Next page. I think it is the last page. Finally look at sex. Yeah, okay. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Bullshit. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Of course not. Well, I've actually not spoken to, but I've read many testimonials from people who have grown up in the foster home system. Foster home, yeah, that's what I said. And they pretty much all said that it didn't matter if they were to be adopted by a same-sex couple or no couple. They just wanted parents. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Of course. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly agree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Yeah, right. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I would argue it hasn't gone far enough, but not in the ways it should go. It's more in the when it comes to sex, people have started going more extremophile. Like, what is the longest time someone can have sex for? What is the longest orgasm one can have, or how long can you, etc. those kinds of things. But we're not talking about more important things like how your sexual orientation or sexual identity influences you, or what does it mean to you, to who you are. So in some ways it has gone too far, but in other ways it has not gone far enough. So overall I'm going to say strongly disagree. Okay, now let's see. No, some explanations, we don't need that. I already know where I might be, but let's see, come on, and whoa! Okay, pretty close. So yeah, oh wait, I could have seen this right here. Never mind. So yeah, this is where I stand. I don't know if you were curious or not, but it reflects who I am. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. If you have anything you'd like to add, the comment section is widely available. And if you want to see when the next video comes out, then go ahead and subscribe. Maybe also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will require of you. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.